Now that I have actually organised these into the order for the video, this will make things a lot easier. Hello everyone, and as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm being unoriginal again because I saw Anna over at Read to Me at Midnight do a video on this topic. I'll link her down below, and it got me thinking a lot about opening lines in general and the importance of them, as they determine a lot of the time whether you continue reading a book or not. And originality is overrated, so I got to thinking and exploring some of my books, and I've compiled some of my favourite opening lines. Some of these books will not be surprising at all if you know me in the slightest. Some of these I hope will be a little bit different and unexpected. Starting off with a completely unsurprising one for me, and one that I'm not going to go into any real detail about because I talk about it way too much anyway, and that is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. To give you an example of how much people know I love this book, my boyfriend got me a framed picture of the opening lines of Great Expectations, so I might as well read it from this because it seems a bit more dramatic reading from a frame. My father's family name being Pirret, and my Christian name Philip, my infant tongue could make of both names nothing longer or more explicit than Pip, so I called myself Pip, and came to be called Pip. I gave Pirip as my father's family name on the authority of his tombstone, and my sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, who married the blacksmith. As I never saw my father or my mother, and never saw any likeness of either of them, for their days were long before the days of photographs, my first fancies regarding what they were like were unreasonably derived from their tombstones. The next book that I'm going to share is I Capture a Castle by Dodie Smith, and I love how simplistic this cover is. I had to get the vintage edition of this because I studied it for one of my years at university, and it was one of those books that I didn't think I was really going to enjoy, but I actually came out really loving this, and I might reread this soon. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. That is, my feet are in it, the rest of me is on the draining board, which I have padded with our dog's blanket and the tea cosy. I can't say that I'm really comfortable, and there is a depressing smell of carbolic soap, but this is the only part of the kitchen where there is any daylight left, and I have found that sitting in a place where you have never sat before can be inspiring. I wrote my very best poem while sitting on the hen house. Swapping to my Kindle now because I cannot find the physical copy of this. I must have lost it when I moved back home, so I'm going to be using my Kindle. The next one that I'm going to talk about is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. This is historical fiction set during World War II and follows a girl who moves in with a new family in Germany. First the colours, then the humans. That's usually how I see things, or at least how I try. Here is a small fact. You are going to die. I am in all truthfulness attempting to be cheerful about this whole topic, though most people find themselves hindered in believing me, no matter my protestations. Please, trust me, I definitely can be cheerful. I can be amiable, agreeable, affable, and that's only the A's. Just don't ask me to be nice. Nice has nothing to do with me. This is another one that is not going to be in the least bit surprising if you know me, because again I talk about it enough, and that is The Great Gatsby by f.scott.fitgerald. It's so short, but has left such a big impact on me. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. The next one that I'm going to share with you, yes, I know it is a problematic one, but I am firmly of the belief that you can enjoy problematic books as long as you acknowledge that they are problematic. And this series was a very big part of my life for most of my teens, and that is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. If you're interested, which are probably not. I was Team Edward in the books and Team Jacob in the films. I even wrote Edward Cullen and put love hearts around it, just in case I forgot. I'd never given much thought to how I would die, though I'd had reason enough in the last few months, but even if I had, I would not have imagined it like this. I stared without breathing across the long room into the dark eyes of the hunter, and he looked pleasantly back at me. Surely it was a good way to die, in the place of someone else, someone I loved. Noble even, that ought to count for something. The problem with this is now, doing this video, I just want to reread all of these books. I don't have time. I feel like I have to start the introduction to each of these books by being like, oh, if you know me well enough. But if you know me well enough, this one won't be a surprise, and that is Peter Pan by j.m.barrie. This is the book that got me into writing. I can't pinpoint why. There was just something about it that I read that just had me in complete awe, and I wanted to be able to write something that could possibly replicate the feelings that I had when experiencing this for the first time. Again, I'm sure you've all probably seen some film adaptation, whether it's the 2003 one, which is by far the best, or the Disney ones, or the newer Pan one. I'm sure you've seen some form of it, so you know what it's about. All children, except one, grow up. They soon know that they will grow up, and the way Wendy knew was this. One day when she was 2 years old, she was playing in a garden, and she plucked another flower and ran with it to her mother. I suppose she must have looked rather delightful, for Mrs. Darling put her hand to her heart and cried, "Oh, why can't you remain like this forever?" This was all that passed between them on the subject, but henceforth Wendy knew that she must grow up. You always know after you are 2. 2 is the beginning of the end. The final book that I'm going to share is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. My threshold for horror and creepy stuff is practically non-existent, which is weird given that I'm such a big Tim Burton fan, but I struggle with it at the best of times. So going into this in preparation for the film that was coming out, ironically directed by Tim Burton, I got a copy and decided to read it so that I was ready for the film, and I ended up absolutely loving this series. It's such a well-crafted series. I love it so much. However, don't think there needs to be 3 more books. There doesn't need to be more books. Just keep it a trilogy. I had just come to accept that my life would be ordinary when extraordinary things began to happen. The first of these came as a terrible shock and, like anything that changes you forever, split my life into halves, before and after. Like many of the extraordinary things to come, it involved my grandfather, Abraham Portman. That was my favourite opening lines. I love each and every one of these books for completely different reasons. So, what are some of your favourite opening lines? Are any of them in this little stack here? Let me know, as always, in the comments below, and I will be back with a new video soon. Bye!